From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.
At the Legislature today, with a holiday weekend ahead of them and an important deadline behind them, the House and Senate get down to business on the floors today to begin considering the bills that will be at the center of their work for the final 2 weeks of the session. And we'll talk about economic development efforts tonight, what works and what might work better on the Legislature today. And good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. Education has been the major focus at this legislative session. Lawmakers face the education efficiency audit that was highly critical of the state's education system and Governor Tomlin's reform package to fix it. But the House is not done correcting some deficiencies it sees in the public schools. A bill passed by the House of Delegates today would require school counselors to spend less time on administrative duties and more time counseling students. Dave Mistich has this report.
Current law requires school counselors to spend 75% of their time counseling students and 25% performing administrative tasks. House Bill 2563 would increase the amount of time spent counseling to 90%. Delegate Jeff Eldridge of Lincoln County, a social worker by profession, reflected on how he has influenced troubled or at-risk students over the years.
These kids come to me as grown people now. They're 30 years old, got families of their own, and living a productive life. And I ask them one question. What did I do to help you succeed in society? You know, everybody told me I'm working with my future criminals. I didn't look at them as future criminals. I looked at them as me. The things they did was the things I did when I was in school. What did I do to succeed, help you succeed? It was one answer. Everybody's got the same answer. It was time. I spent time with them. I listened to them. I gave them a hug when they needed it.
Delegate Eric Nelson of Kanawha County stood in opposition of the bill.
What we tend to put in code here, which is printed and it's very difficult to change. And we're going from we're here as a body basically standing up and saying that we're taking and demanding that a counselor spends not just 75% of their time, but 90% of their time. So I basically stand up and question the principle of our putting something like that in code and not leaving that decision at the local level.
During the closing of the debate, Finance Chair Harry Keith White noted some resistance to the bill, but explained that the issue is too important to ignore. House Bill 2563 was passed on a 93-4 vote. 6 other bills were also passed in the House, including a bill that would treat alternative nicotine products and electronic cigarettes like regular cigarettes. That bill would also prohibit minors from purchasing them and having them available in vending machines. For the Legislature Today, I'm Dave Mistich in the House of Delegates.
Also in the House today, Shepherd University student Suriki Diabate gave a speech highlighting his experience as a Fraser Singleton intern at this session. As a journalist in his home country of Ivory Coast in West Africa, Diabate spoke out against his government imposing prices on the cocoa industry. He also denounced the government's treatment of those who opposed their rule. For his work, he was beaten. Luckily, Diabate escaped and sought refuge here in America. Diabate said his time at the West Virginia legislature has opened his eyes to a world he could have never experienced in his home country.
I'm amazed. I've learned within a week a real sense of public service, a real sense of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Because there was sometimes sitting beside the clerk of the House, I would ask him when I saw opposing argument between delegates or somebody voted no for a bill. I will ask the clerk of the house, is this guy going to be killed tonight, or is he going to have some problem? He said, oh no, this is America. You see, because that's the perspective I have about a government when I was there. But within a week, that has changed. My eyes are open.
After graduation in August, Diabate says he plans to enter graduate school for comparative politics or go to law school. He eventually hopes to be a voice for those who have been deprived of their freedom of expression. Sunday is the deadline for all bills to be reported to the floor from committees, but since Sunday is a holiday and the legislature is not meeting, today was that day. The Senate Judiciary Committee held their first Friday meeting today to consider as much legislation as possible. The full Senate voted on 14 bills, including one to ensure nutritious meals in schools to aid in student achievement. Ashton Mara reports.
Senate Bill 355 defines the amount of time an employer has before paying a discharged employee their final wages. It was introduced at the request of Governor Tomlin. The bill requires that an employee's wages should be paid no later than the next regular payday or 4 business days, whichever comes first. The bill also sets penalties for failure to pay within that time period, but it's that clause that members of the business community were uncomfortable with.
I think one of the hardest things that people don't understand is that the process of payroll has changed. The commercial transaction has changed. The governor's bill asks you to adopt a more commercially reasonable standard with which to comply with the law to pay people their rightful wages so that we have time to calculate the paid time off, so that the vacation time is properly calculated. Because if you mess up 25 cents, you will pay millions and millions of dollars and attorney fees.
Senator Herb Snyder questioned both Harper and Kenny Perdue, president of the AFL-CIO, if they could agree to penalties based on a sliding scale. Committee Vice Chair Senator Greg Tucker asked if adding a good faith clause to help avoid penalties would be better. Ultimately, the bill was passed with one amendment to include the definition of a business day as any day state offices are open for regular business. The last day for committees to vote bills out to the full chamber is Sunday, and it was on the floor today that voting continued, passing 14 bills, including one of the first this session to originate in one of those committees. Senate Bill 663 was up for passage, a bill coming from the Senate Select Committee on Children and Poverty. The bill sets forth a framework for each county school board and the State Department of Education to set up nonprofit funds. Those funds will collect donations from the private sector to supplement federal monies for breakfast and lunch programs. Committee Chair Senator John Unger says the bill will ensure all children are receiving a nutritious breakfast and lunch while in school and allows them to create new feeding programs for after school and summer months.
We can have the best schools, have the best teachers, have the best curriculum, the most modern technology, and that child sitting in the seat. But if that child is hungry, then mentally they're not there and student achievement will not occur. Research shows that as child, particularly from birth to 8, that when children are nourished, that student achievement goes up, attendance goes up, tardiness goes down, and all the other behavior problems go down that lead to other issues later on. And so by making sure that every child is ready to learn, this is what this would do.
The bill was unanimously passed and will move to the House for their approval. For the Legislature Today, I'm Ashton Mara in the Senate.
In a moment, we'll learn about Project Launchpad, a proposed economic development initiative. First, here's a look at what's coming up in the Senate on Monday. Among the bills up for passage in the Senate on Monday, Senate Bill 21 to require healthcare providers wear identification badges clearly informing patients of their name and title. Senate Bill 354 to direct the Commissioner of Highways to conduct a study on alternative revenue mechanisms for development and maintenance of state roads and highways. Senate Bill 438 to combine the operations of Bridgemont Community and Technical College and Kanawha Valley Community and Technical College to become one independent multi-campus community and technical college administered by its own governing board effective June 30th, 2013. Senate Bill 470 to permit farm wineries to sell samples and wine during the operation of fairs and festivals and on Sunday mornings at those events. Senate Bill 599 requiring the governor to appoint the state fire marshal with the advice and consent of the Senate. Senate Bill 652 to provide for criminal background checks for home inspector applicants. House Bill 2487 prohibiting the use of Laetrile as a treatment for cancer. And House Bill 3013 authorizing the formation of job creation work groups of legislators in the House and Senate to gather information in person at locations within and outside the state in order to observe firsthand the best practices for job creation developed elsewhere. Revive, renew, and rebuild. That's the goal of an economic development initiative developed by the Charleston Area Alliance and Vision Shared. Senate Bill 520 was on the move earlier this month, having passed the Senate Economic Development Committee, but it failed to make it through the Senate Finance Committee by today's deadline. Its companion, House Bill 2182, did pass the House Economic Development Committee last month, but died in the House Finance Committee. But that doesn't mean our guest tonight won't try again next session. Joining us is Rebecca Randolph, the President and CEO of Vision Shared of Huntington, and Matt Ballard, the President and CEO of the Charleston Area Alliance. Welcome. Glad you're here. Now, you did remind me there is a chance that the Senate could take up the bill on Monday. How?
Well, we're hopeful that the Senate will suspend their rules because this bill is all about jobs and innovation and diversifying the tax base of West Virginia. So what more important topic could we address? So okay, we're hopeful they'll suspend the rules on Monday and we'll move this bill forward.
And we'll move the bill forward. All right. The House Speaker had his own plan. We just featured it in our Senate bill break regarding these job creation work groups that are going to travel around the state and outside of the state in order to find out what works, what new ideas that they find that they can bring to West Virginia and implement here. Do you think that perhaps had a little more attention than Project Launchpad did?
I mean, I think that's a possibility, but certainly we see Project Launchpad as a well-calculated experiment in economic development. I think one of the best analogies that I've heard about the legislation is it's a petri dish where we can bring in emerging technologies and companies that want to develop that type of business here to diversify the economy in West Virginia, and because of the structure of the legislation, really look at the data at the end of the sunset provision to see how effective the piece really was.
Mm-hmm. So tell us of everything there is to know about Project Launchpad. Where did it come from? Who thought of it? Who wrote it? Who initiated it? How did this all come to be?
Well, Vision Shared and the Charleston Area Alliance have been working on this for several years, really, in pieces, and we finally brought it all together into one bill. And Vision Shared really was created to create objective pieces of legislation that would help job creation and just the state in general. Nonpartisan group, it's in code, and that's what it's here for. So we've been working with them, and basically what Project Launchpad, as Rebecca said, it's a petri dish. It's really focused on innovation, attracting new companies here, and helping existing companies develop brand new technologies. It's really applicable only to new technologies that will be commercialized. Mm-hmm. We have code on the books for research and development. We have code on the books to help manufacturing, but this is really about the new economy, the new global economy, and how West Virginia moves forward with that.
Can you give us an example of the kind of business that would benefit from Project Launchpad?
I would suggest that, for example, Matrix would be a good example. They are developing new technologies that are not currently in the market. Mm-hmm. Should one of those take off, and in a pilot process or in a testing phase, they determine that the market's there, they're able to actually manufacture the product, they could locate that piece of their business in the Launchpad region that would be designated by the governor and receive the benefits that are in this bill.
Okay, Metric is an innovative company that is at the Tech Park in South Charleston. It used to be the Dow Chemical Park,
yes,
but now it's owned by the state of West Virginia, and it is doing incredible work for innovative technology in West Virginia. But there are several tax breaks and other incentives that are proposed in this legislation. Local tax benefits include relief from business and occupation license, sales and use, and property taxes. Businesses that create new jobs with good wages and benefits would temporarily be allowed to retain 75% of state employer withholding taxes attributable to the employees filling the jobs. If business provides employees with student loan payment assistance, it may retain 95% of state employer withholding taxes. Businesses must create at least 250 jobs within 5 years, and 100 of those jobs within 2 years to get these benefits, or the clawback of benefits for noncompliance. All right, so with all of these incentives, how does this affect the state's bottom line? It's financially strapped right now. We're worried about counties and we're worried about cities and tax revenues there, for schools. It's a long question, sorry, but what about the effect that it has on revenues for the state?
Well, I think it's important to note in this new version of the bill, and to back up a little bit, this is, I think, our fourth attempt to get this through the legislature here in West Virginia. That has been an issue that we've considered very carefully. With Project Launchpad, this is a completely permissive piece of legislation, meaning that in order for a launchpad area to be designated by the governor, both local and municipal and county governments would have to come to the table and say that they want to be a launchpad area. So I think they are looking at whether it's a benefit to give up that potential future revenue. And that's not impacting current revenue at all, because this is new business development. I believe the piece states that those companies would have to form, or that technology would have to be developed after July 2013. So as far as the long-term impact, we have to look at the broader scope and the jobs that that brings. And I think one of the unique pieces of this Launchpad legislation is that there are predefined requirements. These have to be good wage jobs. They have to provide employee benefits. They're the type of jobs that can be created to keep West Virginia's best and brightest.
There are other, as you mentioned, Mr. Ballard, there are other innovative technology business initiatives that are out there. Aren't they working? Why do we need this one?
Some of them are, some of them haven't. As tax incentives have become very popular throughout the country, it becomes more difficult to compete with our competitors, other states. I'll give you a few examples of some that have worked. In the Marcellus Shale Development Bill that was passed a few years ago, we passed a tax credit to help natural gas vehicle fueling stations to develop. And recently we had an announcement of 4 new stations in West Virginia. That's a bill that was passed that will eventually let every West Virginia save dollars by having a natural gas vehicle, that they won't have to spend quite as much on gasoline. The film tax credit is one. Super 8, the movie, and The Men Who Built America has been filmed in West Virginia because of that tax credit. So some have worked, some have not. The good part about Project Launchpad, it's sunsetted, there's a reporting requirement each year for the Department of Commerce, and there are clawback provisions. And what that means basically is that if someone doesn't perform, if they promise but do not deliver, the state of West Virginia does not have to either provide the credit or can claw back the credit, basically take back the credit.
This is your 4th year trying this. Now certainly the legislative process is a deliberative process, but 4 years, what's the hang-up?
I think initially one of the issues was that it was a broader focused bill. I think by creating the application process to establish these launch pads, requiring that the counties or the municipalities want to be a part of this, that it can target some of the areas that have the potential versus being imposed, for a lack of a better word. I think that's been the impediment, and I think certainly it's a much stronger bill. I believe the student loan forgiveness component addresses a critical issue that a lot of West Virginians are facing right now, and again, tightening up the clawback provisions and the penalties for noncompliance has certainly made a difference.
As you look at the Charleston area, in the Advantage Valley area between Charleston and Huntington, the I-79 high-tech corridor, what has worked in business development in West Virginia? What hasn't worked? Let's talk about what's worked to bring these businesses here, to have them thrive here. What's worked?
You know, economic development is such a complex, it's very hard. One of the things that always has been a challenge for us is even just having the land in West Virginia that we need, the sites that are available. So any type of tax credit that encourages us to expand our infrastructure has helped bring in manufacturing. The Marcellus Shale Development Bill has helped us work on recruiting a cracker, something that's still active, something that's still very possible for the state. And sometimes you just don't know. to be honest. Sometimes it's very difficult and we have to try new things. That's what this bill's about. It's innovation and it's looking towards the new economy. If it doesn't work well, then we'll adapt, and that's part of what the legislative process is all about. But there have been projects that have worked, there have been some that have been challenges for the state, but it is a global economy. We're competing against everyone, not just our neighboring states. So we have to be innovative. We have to have the newest type of recruitment, and we've got to have the right talent. That's the reason for the student loan portion of this bill. This is kind of a holistic approach to it. And the state tax department is required to put a fiscal note on each bill. The fiscal note on this bill, as we have adapted it, is zero. It is revenue neutral for the state. If anything, they'll gain new taxes from the new companies or new investments that existing companies make.
Lots of research going on at Marshall University and West Virginia University, and we know because we have seen businesses launch as a result of that research. And that's really what Project Launchpad is really for, these new innovative businesses that are coming out of just the fine research that are being done at the universities. We know that's happening. So, as you look at economic development and recruiting businesses here to West Virginia, a lot of talk about substance abuse, a lot of talk about drug testing. People can't pass drug tests. There's too much substance abuse. What do you hear from the business development community about this particular issue? Is it a hindrance to getting businesses to expand or locate here?
It is. I hear that a lot from companies, that folks that come and if they are able to pass the exams that they may give or the testing, that they're not able to pass the drug test. It's a major problem in the state. While we've made some headway, I think, and the governor is taking some aggressive steps on that in the past couple of years. So we are making some headway. But just the right skill sets are important, and obviously you have to have someone who can be, sober, for lack of a better word, on the job. They're right. Dangerous. You don't want anyone to be hurt, and you can't, have those kind of conditions on the workplace. So it's something that we hear a lot about. Hopefully we can move forward in that, and when people have good jobs and things, that helps all of society. So it's something we need to continue to focus on, though.
I want to end on a positive note. How's Vision Shared doing?
We're doing great. We're happy to be working in some of the critical issues here in West Virginia. Education, of course, workforce development, building a foundation for entrepreneurship here in the state. So we've got a lot going on, but certainly we feel like we're, through this piece, looking forward and looking at things that can have a long-term positive impact on the state.
It's interesting to see how Vision Shared was first formed, and it's still going on. And of course the Charleston Area Alliance as well. Matt Ballard and Rebecca Randolph, an interesting discussion, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth.
And here's a look at what's coming up in the House on Monday. Among the bills up for passage in the House, House Bill 2550, adding the criminal offense of receiving materials depicting minors in sexually explicit conduct and to enhance the felony criminal penalty. House Bill 2766, to require the Office of Healthy Lifestyles to establish the West Virginia Winter Competition to promote healthy living and improve lifestyles of West Virginia residents by competing in various athletic and cultural events. House Bill 2940, to require all county superintendents of schools and members of county boards belonging to the same regional educational service agency to hold meetings to identify functions that may be shared between or among the county boards. The result of the meetings must be provided to the State Board of Education and the legislature. House Bill 2966, prohibiting an employer from requesting or requiring that an employee or applicant disclose any username, password, or other means for accessing a personal account or service through certain electronic communications devices. House Bill 3086, the governor's bill transferring control of the West Virginia Industrial Home for Youth to the Division of Corrections and renaming it the Salem Correctional Center. And House Bill 3159, to allow Monroe County schools to increase the compulsory school attendance age from 17 to 18 as part of its county-wide dropout prevention initiative, and to permit Nicholas County schools to permit up to 2 unexcused absences per semester be erased from a student's attendance record if the student completes the county's Saturday instruction program. This has been the Legislature Today. On Monday, we'll welcome Iraq War veteran Jessica Lynch. On April 1st, 2003, a nation cheered as it learned that Lynch had been rescued from an Iraqi hospital by U.S. Armed Forces. On Monday, she'll be the guest of honor at a special anniversary reception for her at the Culture Center in Charleston from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday, April 1st. That event is free and open to the public. Jessica Lynch will speak to us before that reception. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.